Hey there, it's Dr. Fee Enkelman, and today I'm sharing with you my most humiliating experience and the top 3 most powerful lessons it taught me about burnout. Stay tuned. Hey there, it's Dr. Fee Enkelman, and I love supporting women overcome burnout so that they can reconnect with themselves and find their bliss. And today I'm sharing with you my most humiliating experience of my life. And it's not the kind of experience where you might eat some ice cream, watch some Netflix just to recover. I'm talking about the depth of my soul being touched by this experience. And really, I know that there's someone in the world right now who needs to hear this, and especially the 3 most powerful takeaways that it taught me about burnout. So let's dive in. Now, if you have read anything about me, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't, you'll know that I am a high achiever. And I am not shy in admitting that I am a recovering perfectionist as well. And of course, when you hear me talk about the patterns that contribute to why we get burnt out, well, you can see why I ended up in the classroom of burnout. And so, in terms of my life, I certainly haven't been one who has been sheltered from hardships. And this isn't about, me sharing a sob story with you, but just to build a background as to who I was. I was a very strong-willed, determined individual and grown up in a farm in remote Queensland in Australia, and, had my fair share of trauma and illness, and had really pushed the boundaries and experimented with drugs and alcohol, got in trouble with the law. I moved out of home when I was 16 and put myself through year 12, got through to university, made the decision that I wanted to be a doctor, moved through, left my family state and moved to a whole new state where I knew no one and started medicine. So just to describe a little bit about me, someone who loves to push boundaries, loves to push on. And really, I grew up with my mum saying, girls can do anything. I'm invincible. And it's such a beautiful affirmation, and there's so much truth in it. And I sort of wore it as a badge. Fast forward to when I had gone through my whole training as a medical doctor, and I was a junior doctor. I had really focused on, I had a real deep desire from a young age to help on a very big level. And I really thought that that was going to be more in an international setting, in an aid or developing country. And in my 3rd year out of medicine, my husband and I embarked on a journey to Africa, and we volunteered there. And it was one of the most profound and rewarding experiences. But I'm not going to lie, it was confronting. My first day, I had 4 children die. And in Australia, where we have such a level of standard in our healthcare, in our the amount of abundance that we have just by living here in Australia, I think I'd seen 1 child die in my career as a medical doctor. So this was confronting, and these were children who were in my care. So that was even more confronting. And I did the best that I could do. And when I returned to Australia, I brought back a whole lot of baggage. And that baggage was grief and anger, disappointment, sadness, and I carried it. But I was determined to keep going, and my husband and I moved to Northern Australia so that I could focus more on emergency care, critical care, and working in the Indigenous population of Australia. I was just so lit up to be able to work in Darwin Hospital And with the team up there, it was a real blessing. But I dove straight into a training program, and where you work full time and study full time, it's a lot. And being a high achiever and a perfectionist, if I had got 100%, then the next expectation that I was somehow going to get 150%. Or it was just not enough. I'd compare myself with my expectations, which were often unrealistic, or what I perceived others were doing. And my life was led by external validation. My decisions were made based on what I thought another would approve of or not approve of. And there was these patterns of people pleasing, and it became this perfect storm that really did contribute to, well, burnout, empathy fatigue, disconnection. And so this was the background that led me to this experience where I was deeply humiliated, where I really lost connection with who I thought I was, and my whole world was shaken up and started to crumble down around me. And there were a lot of warning signs leading up to it, you know, where I was noticing the negativity in the thinking that comes with burnout, and that sense of waking up with dread and that feeling of depletion, but also that hum and that buzz that happens when you're in a fight-flight state. You know, it's just this hypervigilance, can't relax, busy, 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 busy mind, busy system, go, 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 I'm not safe, where's the threat? So here I was working as a junior doctor in intensive care, and it was split into those who are very unwell and needing more of high-level care, and those who were in less, which is still called high. So that was ICU, and then there's the other level, which was high dependency. So there's sort of that, they're too sick for the ward, but they're not quite sick enough for intensive care support. And there was one particular patient, back in the day when I was a doctor, they were called patient, this beautiful man who had recovered somewhat. And every expectation was that he was soon to be on the ward, and then the next step will he'll be home. But I just had this ominous feeling. I just had this sense that something wasn't right. And I remember walking back and forward past his bed and just casting an eye over him. And being a junior doctor, one of the biggest things is you never ever want to be responsible for a mistake, you know? And so one of the great things is that you can ask for help. And there's such talented nurses and my seniors, and I did that. And I had a conversation with my boss, and I spoke to the lead nurse, and they reassured me, and we looked at the vitals, it was all fine. And yet, you know, I just didn't feel like it was. And within moments, I was proven right. And out of the blue, we just heard him, all the warning lights and, you know, beeps going off. And he had acutely deteriorated because of a bleed within his brain, to the point where, you know, he was almost dead and having difficulty breathing. And I won't go into much more detail as that, because I know most of you are probably highly empathetic and can visualize exactly what I'm painting, but it was sudden, there was an acute deterioration and required us to act immediately. And the beautiful thing is that's what we're trained for. That's what we're here to do. I was someone who, even though I was a junior, I had a lot of experience under my belt, because I've always been a very proactive, seeking to push my boundaries, to be great, to strive for excellence. And to be completely honest, it was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Africa, was not just to help on that level and really connect with these beautiful people and cultures, but also because there you get thrown in the deep end, and I'm the type of person who likes to sink or swim. I just love to push myself, throw myself into it, and, you know, just keep going. And a part of that really helps you to up level as a doctor. And here I was in this situation, this moment when this beautiful man needed me, and I decompensated. And in that moment, that experience of the survival state meant that with this trigger, with this challenge, with this event that required a stress response, quick, let's act, let's fight, let's flight, let's make a decision, let's help this person, pushed me over the edge, and I decompensated. And my hand trembled, like my body trembled. And I recall my consultant, so the head boss of ICU, and my registrar, who's my senior, they're all looking at me. My job was to be responsible for the medication and putting that in and supporting the nurse, and I couldn't do it. Because you need a pretty steady hand, right? To be able to put those two together and push the medicine in. And it was horrible. And these people were so empathetic. I mean, honestly, I haven't, in terms of the love that I have for a team, honestly, it wasn't about them. It was about me and how I was dealing with it and the lack of compassion that I had for myself in that moment. I could just feel like the walls were coming down over me. And I wanted the world to swallow me up. And you might listen to this and go, well, it's no big deal. Come on, sweetheart, pick yourself up. And normally I would, but not this time. I didn't have it in me. And it really broke my heart because my entire value was wrapped in being a doctor and being a capable doctor, a competent doctor, an excellent doctor. And so I had to walk away. I was getting in the way. And even though with moments and minutes and hours, physically I calmed down, and a part of me was like, okay, yeah, there was a big part of me which was like, It was like this, just like I had experienced coming home from Africa, there was this other component to this experience that I didn't know what it was or how to handle it. And that just compounded the burnout further, made my physical health worse, my medical conditions. As you know, I had autoimmune thyroiditis, it got worse, and I just became a wreck. And it really felt like at that moment I'd hit rock bottom. And, I felt like I'd hurt my reputation. How was I going to get a position working in this team moving forward? And, there's a lot of sought after positions. And I guess, when you're in that state, you spiral and you catastrophize. And in truth, there was some truth to what I was thinking and experiencing. And so while I recovered physically, I hadn't emotionally. And it was that residue of the experience, the trauma, how it felt in me, the humiliation, the frustration, the disappointment, that was chewing me up on the inside. I was dying on the inside because it was like this black cancer just coming in and stealing my light. And what I noticed was everything was heightened in terms of the negativity. My thoughts were affected, my physiology was affected, my level of care, I couldn't give a darn, shall we say. And really that's just burnout spiraling. So here's what I wanted to share with you, because I know for a lot of you that there is trauma that happens when you're in burnout. And I don't want to, if people here who are listening who have had traumatic experience and diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, to think that I'm watering down their experience or the truth of that diagnosis. I'm not, but in my experience of helping women in similar situations, this left me with a feeling that is, and an experience that's not dissimilar to PTSD. And so I did what most people do when they have this, is just to bottle it up and keep on going. But fortunately, the universe did hear my deep desire for change, my prayer, my begging, when you're on the floor and you're surrendering, just like a mess, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And I'm so grateful for the grace of that. And so the three most powerful things that I got out of this experience was this. The first is when you're in a state of survival that happens with burnout, you really, if it's left unchecked, it's going to have a massive impact on how you can handle inevitable challenges. And what I want you to understand is that stress isn't a bad thing. There's a reason why in an acute situation where there is a threat, the stress response is protective. It helps us to think and act and fight and, protect ourselves, look after ourselves, survive. But because I've been living in a general state of survival, which is burnout, and I wasn't handling it, if you can imagine, I was really tipped over to the edge. So if you imagine, a chart where, if you were just really relaxed or you're in the middle, you kind of have a little bit of stress, you're going to perform better. But if you're already at the end of the bell chart, right down the edge of the bell chart, and you have additional stress, what happens is your performance and your function decompensate. Boom, 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 just like me. Became a shaking, blubbering mess when I was needed the most. And so it does impact our performance when we are having to respond to challenges. And have you noticed that challenges are just a part of life? And so we can lose ourselves when we try to handle life. We react rather than act. We collapse rather than handle it with resilience and strength. We decompensate rather than being creative and solution focused. And I could go on, but I want you just to understand that that is what happens. That's one of the consequences of burnout. And in turn, it can be very quick that we can spiral into hitting that wall. And I speak to a lot of women and they're like, yeah, but I've been like this forever. Been like this for years. It's fine. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Because you may just be given a gift from the universe, which is either, the 4 Ds, which is death, disease, divorce, and disaster. I remembered it. Regardless, a massive wake-up call. A wake-up call to really get you to notice that, wait up, sweetheart, you're way out of alignment. That's how much the universe loves us. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is really around how, when we think we've recovered from an incident, from an experience, from a trigger, have we really? Have you really recovered? Just because physically you feel like you've gone back to your baseline, have you truly recovered? And my example, or my point to this is, while sure, I was no longer tremulous and in a state of anxiety or overwhelm, I really hadn't recovered. There's so much more to us than our physiology, our body. There's this emotional part of us. There's the psychological part of us. There's the energetic and spiritual side of us. And I had no idea how to resolve, heal, and love that part of me. And the humiliation and the disappointment and the frustration and the bagfuls of emotional despair that I'd carried home with me from Africa, no idea how to handle that. And what I did was look around to see who else can show me, what mentors of mine can show me, how do I handle this emotional pain and the emotional intensities that come with burnout. And I couldn't see anyone who was setting a great role model for me. The solution seemed to be alcohol, another form of spirit, or running marathons. And that wasn't really my thing. And so what I noticed is this desire to just push on. It was this pattern of, she's right, I can do anything, I've got this, let's go. And I'm so grateful for that part of me. However, it compounded the issue. And what I really came to a point was to realize, actually, I need to meet this part of me. We only have a certain amount of personality, personal energy. Personality, we have a lot of personality. We only have a certain amount of personal energy. And if it gets bound up in shame or pain or suffering or frustration or anger or resentment or hurt or betrayal from life's experiences, what's left? What's left for us to be enjoying right now? What's left to support us in embracing what is in life and this beautiful life of abundance that we have? Well, it's not. It's bound up in all of this pain. And what helped me was this process of letting it go, healing it, resolving it, letting go of this baggage, this pain, and the meaning that I had given it, and the internalization and the identity and the rules that I'd put on it that really weren't serving me and was taking me away from being brilliant, taking me away from what it is that I wanted to be, and how I wanted to feel and enjoy life. And I'm sure that makes sense. And then lastly is really that in becoming aware of it, what I noticed is that I was terrified of what it would mean if I actually addressed it. If I poked that pain, everything that I was trying to suppress and ignore, push down, avoid, I'm just going to get really busy over here. Let me study some more. Let me go out and drink with my friends. Let me eat. Let me watch Netflix. I don't want to feel this. I want to disconnect from that feeling because it ain't good. Oh, but now I feel numb. Why is that? Because I'm not feeling my feelings. And my personal energy is all bound up into this negativity, and I'm just a shadow of who I know I can be, of who I used to be. And so my fear was, if I poke it, will it erupt like a volcano out of control? Would I become a babbling mess, a crazy woman? Would I lose my mind? Seriously, would I lose my mind? Would I become an impatient? All very, very big fears of mine at the time. But what I found was actually, it was exhausting and bloody depleting trying to keep it in place, to try and wear another mask and keep that part hidden in the recesses of my being, of my mind, to stay efforting to be disconnected from that. And in turn, what was happening is it was holding power over me. It was limiting me in so many ways. The negative critical voice of, oh my God, it got louder and louder and louder. I'm so stupid. I'm hopeless. I'm a failure. I'm absolutely, absolutely useless. And it impacted my intimacy with my relationships. Of course, if you don't love yourself, how can you expect someone else will love you? If you don't show it yourself, it's very hard to receive it from someone. If you're in a state of shame and anger at yourself, my partner could say to me, darling, you're beautiful. I love you. And I'm just going to hear, I'm going to think, oh, he's just saying that. What does he want? Oh, it's not true. And I'll deflect it. And so life was, yeah, sure, people talk about burnout and it's associated with work, but we can't just compartmentalize our life. We are human beings experiencing relationships and different roles and work, and just to say, oh, it's just a work thing. No way. We take that home and it impacts our relationships in a very profound way, and our confidence and our desire to be great in other ways, to have an identity outside of our work, in our community, or take on new creations, or dream big about the future. Have fun. And so what I found, and this is really important, is actually feeling our feelings isn't the problem. No one's ever died from feeling a feeling. And I have felt some big feelings, you know, the ones where you just get them, it just comes up like a rush from below, and it's like sick in the gut, and you're not sure whether you're going to vomit or you're going to like have snot coming out of your nose, and you're crying, and you're just, oh my goodness, losing yourself. I've had these really deep feelings before, and I remind myself, no one's ever died from feeling a feeling. We die because we choose not to. We suppress them, we ignore them, we try and avoid them, we try to run from them, or we project them, we hurt other people, and in turn we hurt ourselves. That's how we die from these feelings. They eat us up on the inside. They affect our physiology because we are constantly getting triggered. These states within us get triggered, get triggered, get triggered. We are heightened, we are sensitive, and we're just constantly getting triggered, constantly in a survival state, and our physiology gets hit by that. That's science. And so what I find, and I remind our clients time and time again, is you got this, sweetheart. You know, when you start to let go, when you delve into handling this and resolving and letting go and liberating your energy from the past, I hear time and time and time again, better out than in. And oh my goodness, my biggest regret is I can't believe I held on to that for 30 years. And what a beautiful testament to the work and the joy of having the courage to do that. And it's not a judgment if you don't, and it's something that you're just like, oh, no way, I'm not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. No way. It's okay. I get it. But for me personally, when I hit rock bottom, the grace in that is that I discovered what I had seen and admired when I was working in Africa and Nepal, in Australia, and in my Indigenous communities. And I'm just highlighting Africa, Nepal, Indigenous communities from the perspective of these are cultures and communities that have a different level of adversity that they experience day in, day out, that truly is survival. You know, I hadn't really been touched by death really before I went and volunteered in Africa. And it's a very, it's a part of their culture, young, children dying. And what I noticed and appreciated and loved was their human spirit. It was something that just lit me up. And I too discovered that when I had hit rock bottom. There's this part of us that gets ignited, and it is the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And so the timing is the timing. And I just know for the right people, this will resonate, it will land, it will create that spark within you. And I wish you the best with it. For the reasons that I said, it will help you to handle life moving forward. It will ensure that you truly resolve and come back to a place of center and calm and bliss and, own your life. And it's not as scary as your fear tells you it's going to be, as the survival state is whispering in your ear, trying to protect you, but in fact, keeping you stuck in the hell. And so from my heart, I really hope that speaks to and resonates with you all. It's such an honor to be able to share this experience. For at least a couple of years, I wasn't able to even mention it to the people I love the most without having a full body reaction. I couldn't utter the words, even to my healer and teachers, and because I was very, very active after I discovered that I was in burnout and I wanted actions. I wanted to get out quickly. So I was very committed to it, but it took me years before I could even talk about it. I held it so tight. And I just look back and I go, wow, things would have been so different then. Had I known then what I know now and what I get to help my clients with, it's such grace, it's such a blessing. And I know a lot of you here will perhaps be carers or healers in your own right. And I know you've probably had similar experiences that you've gone through, you've passed through, and in turn, it's this wisdom that we cultivate in these experiences that we get to then share and light up the world. And that's what this, this work is about. And that's what we help our clients to realize. It's this, it's all great to have the knowledge and the intellectual know-how of, oh yeah, that sounds good, I got to get myself out of burnout. But it's a different thing to be able to implement the teachings or the insights or the training so that we embody it and in turn actually feel differently. So from my heart, depending on whichever platform you're tuning in, please like, love, comment, spread the word, give me your best inspiration, share with me your experiences or what resonated with you. And if you are wanting some further support, then I really encourage you to register for my free masterclass, which is about my burnout to bliss process. And I wish you all the best. Take care. Here's to you finding your bliss. Big love. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you would like to subscribe and keep in touch, then click on my head and you'll subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to book a call with our team for an amazing life-changing experience, then click on the button beneath this, which is book a clarity session, or go to our website, findingbliss.com.au/apply, and be sure to fill out a short application form to secure the opportunity. Awesome. Stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you on our next session. Big love.